Welcome back, guys. Beautiful afternoon out here, minus the rain, but hey, could be a lot worse. I am out here today with my tractor and obviously my stump grinder on the back here for that very reason, to grind some stumps. Now, last few videos I had some great feedback from you guys. You guys were mentioning things that you saw me doing. You were asking questions about what I was doing. All of that I do read. I assure you. I try my very best to read absolutely everything and respond to everyone. If I do miss the odd comment, I do apologize, but it is important to me to make sure that you guys are hearing back from me when you take the time out of your day to talk to me. With that in mind, I'm grinding some stumps today, and I'm going to comment on a few of the things that you guys mentioned in my previous videos. Some of those things I did, some of those things I didn't do. You guys are really great because you look out for me. You give me some tips, some of your own experience, and it really helps to make my new piece of equipment work well for me. So what am I talking about? Well, last time around, many of you guys asked me when I was grinding stumps, why was it that I was only grinding the stumps in the forward position, only when driving forward, as opposed to grinding when going in reverse? Now, because this is new equipment to me, I've been following the manual to a T. The manual says specifically you should back over the stump and then cut when you're driving forward. And some of the reasons for that, if we have a look down here, you guys can see the teeth on the grinder. See how the teeth are on this side? But if you look to the back side, there's nothing here. There's just the bolt heads. There's no cutters. So if you're trying to go in reverse and trying to cut, the cutters aren't on this side of the wheel here. They're only on this side, and you can see they're numerous, but that's the side they're on. So that's one reason. Another reason I'm cutting in the forward position comes down to this. I don't know if you guys will be able to tell, but this greasable pivot point here, it allows this wheel here to pivot outwards. There's actually a picture in the manual that depicts this, and although it's a bit wet, you can get the point there. So currently I'm on the vertical position, but you'll notice on the right there's a sway position, so it can pivot. And it pivots once I take this pin out, and that brings me to my next point. In my last video, I was so excited to get out here and try this piece of equipment. I actually forgot to pull that pin out. Luckily, I didn't damage anything. Very important that pin comes out. I've learned my lesson. Thank you to those of you who caught that. This pin right here will come out. And today, when we're driving forward, this whole unit may sway back just a little bit. We'll just drop down the 3-point hitch just a little bit. And I've got a lever here on the back of my tractor. Very fortunate to have that there. That lever is handy because I don't have to go inside the cab if I want to raise or lower the implement here. It's also nice because when I'm lining things up, that tends to be when I need to raise and lower the lower arms here. And when that happens, if I had to go into the cab every time, it'd be a bit of a pain. Anyways, I've lowered this down just a little bit. I'm going to talk about something that many of you guys mentioned last time in my previous video involving the stump grinder. And what that was the sway. So the stump grinder right now is hooked up to my 3-point hitch on the tractor. If you guys look here, it will sway, right? You guys can see, I don't know, there's probably a good 2 inches that it'll move left or right. That comes down to a number of things. One is technique when you're grinding. The next is the actual setup of my 3-point hitch. If we look here, this is a solid bar right here, and it's adjustable. So there's a series of holes. If you guys have a look down there, see the series of holes? So basically what I do, I will push the implement all the way to one side. You guys see that? And then I'll come over here and I'll try to fit this pin into the best hole that'll prevent it from coming back towards me. And that's about the best I can do there. Now I'll do that on both sides in order to keep these tight. The trouble is though, if you look at the connection, and I mentioned this in my previous video, if you look at the connection, they're not exactly solid connections. And because they're not solid connections, no matter how tight I have these, there's gonna be some movement. So these are pretty tight right now. But see that movement? Just that little bit of movement on both sides. That's going to account for a bit of sway. So that brings me to my next point. If you can't eliminate that sway with the actual 3-point hitch entirely, what do? Well, in the manual, it talks about technique. When you're grinding, you should actually grind from the right side of the stump, moving incrementally across the stump to the left. So as I'm moving from right to left across the stump, keep in mind, this is assuming I'm facing forward, right to left that way. I'm going to be taking off about 2 inches of material on the stump maximum. Now I know that's probably going to come down to your preference. In my opinion, you know, you start off slow, you get a feel for the tractor, you sense what it's doing, and then you adjust accordingly. If 2 inches is too much, you back her up, you just make one additional pass. But it suggests 2 inches in the manual, and as I said, moving right to left. That'll help to eliminate that sway, or at least reduce the amount of sway. One thing I'll point out that is absolutely not supposed to happen when you're grinding stumps is cutting right down the middle. If you guys have a big stump, you're not supposed to start right in the middle. Apparently that can lead to damage. I'm not going to try it just for that reason. But in the manual, there's actually a picture. And it's kind of nice because the pictures are good reminders, and that way I don't go back and have to read all the instructions again. If you guys have a look here, you can see right there. So it says don't start in the middle. It can shake your tractor, more or less damage it potentially, maybe damage the grinder. And it shows you all the other ways you don't want to grind your stumps. So see on the far bottom right, you guys see right down here, see how the way the wheel's turning? If you were to grind from left to right, you will have some jumping of the grinder. Keep in mind, and for those of you who aren't familiar with tractors, keep in mind there's no down pressure on this implement. This implement here is not like the loader. The loader, I can lift the whole tractor up with it. This right here, once you drop it down, the weight of that is what's holding it down on the stump, nothing else. And so if you put it in the wrong position on a stump, it's going to want to jump. That's going to happen if you're trying to cut left to right across the stump, as opposed to what you're supposed to do, which is right to left, in which the blade, or the teeth rather, are cutting down into the material and actually preventing that sway and preventing that jumping. And just in case you guys didn't see my previous video, this is a 2012 Kioti DK40se HST with a hydrostatic transmission. 40 horsepower is at the engine. I'm floating right around 31 or 32 horsepower at the PTO. When I get this up to operating speed, I'm running the PTO at 540 RPMs. So that's what I'm going to do. In just a minute, we're going to head down this way. You guys can see as I thin this red pine forest, I take out entire rows of trees. By taking out entire rows, look what I'm left with. You guys see all these stumps? There's probably like 40 down there. I have a row like this, like every 4 rows of trees. So when I say I have a lot of stumps, yeah, I got a lot of stumps. So I'm going to take these out, because what happens in the wintertime especially, this gets covered in snow. I go through there with the snow machine and I forget that I've got the stumps there, and I just hammer the A-arms off them, or whatever it is, a sleigh of wood off them, and they're not fun. Not to mention, I can't really drive the tractor down there very well for fear of putting a tire up on it and potentially causing damage. So we'll clear it out of there. We'll make a nice trail once again, and that'll also give me access. So when I continue down there for more logging, I don't have all these stumps in the way when I'm skidding logs out. So we'll take care of that right now. And just as I'm about to get going, does anyone have any guesses how long that's going to take me? I have no idea, because I'm still relatively new to this grinder. But if I were to guess, I'm going to say it's probably going to take me an hour. I don't know. You think I can do 40 stumps in an hour? They're pretty small. You guys see they're all red pines. I don't know what the diameter, maybe like some are like 9 inches, some are 5 inches. I'm going to say an hour will get me down there. Let's see how right or wrong I am. Here we go. those of you who are asking me about the monitor here, that monitor does go to a reverse camera, but it goes to this reverse camera up here. This was designed for my snowblower to see behind me so I didn't have to turn around all the time. I think another monitor like this mounted down below, down where the grinder is, would be helpful. Right now I'm having to look through this window. You guys can just sort of see the edge of the blade there, the edge of the wheel. That's the only view I have of it cutting. And so that gets a bit old after a while. And so I think a camera or something similar would be nice. Guys, that's it. I went through the entire row here. I went back and counted. There was 23 stumps I took out. And being this is a new machine to me, not the tractor, but the stump grinder, I was taking it pretty easy. I thought it would take me about an hour to get through all of these. It actually took me closer to a half hour. I think as my experience grows with this, I'll probably get even faster. Now, I know in the manual, Woodland Mills talks about taking off, I think about 2 inches or less per cut with the stump grinder. But the truth of the matter is, some of these stumps, they weren't all that solid. I could have probably just dropped the stump grinder right down to the ground and cleaned it off in one go. You would have seen that in some of the clips there. Now, the tractor didn't even know the stump grinder was on there. I think if you would probably go full speed at all these, it would probably still take it on. Lots of power at 32 horsepower, at least with these stumps. You start getting into some ironwood, maybe some freshly cut oak stumps. Yeah, you're probably going to start to feel it, but these red pines here sitting out for a year or two, definitely didn't even notice it. So that's a good thing. Some of you guys probably are wondering why on earth I cut this row to begin with, or ground it down. It's because I use this for trails and for access. If I'm driving a machine in here, like a snow machine, you're going to end up hitting these stumps from time to time with the sleigh or with the machine itself, and that's not going to be a good day. Not to mention, I get down here and I winch trees from these little laneways here, and I don't want to be high-siding the tractor on a stump. That's why I took it out. Anyways, let's make our way just around to the back here, and we'll just see what it looks like after a little bit of use. And you guys can tell here just a little bit of debris there, but definitely ready to go another round. So these teeth still feel nice and sharp on there, that's for sure. I'm hoping they last quite a while. You can sharpen them, but obviously you don't want to take your time to sharpen them before you absolutely need to. So overall, great experience first time around. I'll be sure to put that into the routine for getting out and getting my stumps taken care of. Guys, that's it for me here today. Glad you joined me. Make sure if you haven't done so already, please give her the old like or subscribe, and I'll see you next time.